We are back. We are back, everyone, with another Curtain Call podcast here on the Man on Second YouTube channel, rapidly growing Man on Second YouTube channel. And I thank everybody for tuning in. This is kind of growing. I'm really getting great feedback from a lot of parents, a lot of players here in South Florida, where we generate this podcast. This podcast is dedicated to kind of recapping the week that I just saw, a bunch of games again, a lot of highlights, a lot going on here. And we're kind of zoning in on the high school scene in South Florida. So just kind of my thoughts, observations. Last week was spring break for a lot. A lot of our teams left town. There were teams that stayed around, but we'll kind of touch on the games that kind of caught my attention. So because so many teams were out of town, I was kind of limited. I ended up seeing like Nova a couple of times, U School a couple of times. I did get to see St. Thomas Aquinas. So we'll break that down. Meanwhile, teams like Stoneman Douglas, obviously highly ranked in the state, they were up in the Tampa area. American Heritage. They went over to Fort Myers. So we'll kind of rehash all that stuff as we roll along here on the show. But everyone, please like, subscribe. I can't click this enough. Closing in on 3,000 subscribers, already shattering my goals for the month of March. I set for the month of March a goal of 1 million views for the month of March. Let me throw that up there. We did that last week. So as we enter the final curtain call before we flip the calendar over to April, I checked my analytics before I hit the record button, 1.3 million. So over 300,000 views since last time we spoke. And I can't thank everyone enough for tuning in, checking out all this content, working hard for you guys. And you guys are motivating me because, the responses I'm getting from everybody is really good. I'm hoping I'm offering some good insights. But let's dive right into what's been going on. Last Monday, I saw U School Nova at U School, NSU U School, Nova Southeastern. A great game. It was 5-4. It went 9 innings. And actually, I made the mistake. Whenever you make the mistake and say a game's going fast, next thing you know, you're in extra innings. So that game ended up going to U School 5-4. But Nova kind of outplayed them. There were some iffy umpiring calls that kind of went U School's way. But U School's a really good team, and what do good teams do? They find a way. Hats off that game for Nova starter Cody Beauvais. He went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs. His brother Cole had 3 hits. They were kind of the big stars for Nova that day. But U School, they find a way. Like I said, they play as a team. They overcome adversity. Mark Manuel came up big that day for U School. He delivered a big hit. Keep in mind, Nova scored in the top of the 9th inning to take the 1-run lead, and Mark Manuel, I think, had a 2-run single to win it. And Mark had a big week. We'll talk about him a little bit more because he came up big again later in the week against Somerset on Friday. But that also was the night that Douglas went over to up in the Tampa area. They were in Lakeland the first day. They played Santa Fe Catholic. And just, for those who don't know, I also do the writing for High School on SI, that's Sports Illustrated's high school page website, formerly SB Live or Scorebook Live. You still get access to that. Encourage everyone, please read my copy there because I get paid by the view by those guys. On this channel, it's my baby. All I want is you to hit a like button and I hope you subscribe, but mainly watch the videos is what I'm looking for here. I ask nothing else. But in that game, Daniel Tartaglia, left-hander, huge game, 7 innings. He threw the shutout, 13 strikeouts. Daniel Tartaglia has done really well, and Douglas probably has collectively the best pitching in South Florida, arguably the best pitching in the state of Florida. And it really was put to a test because the Eagles, they really ran the gauntlet. I'll tackle them before I talk in the games I saw. Then the next night, Douglas, to their credit, they played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. very taxing on pitching. So they went up there. They won 2 of 3. So Tuesday night, one of them really, really big game, real measuring stick for Douglas as, they're really kind of getting traction. I think they won 16 in a row. They go in and they beat Tampa Jesuit 7-4. Jesuit is nationally ranked. Now they have like 6 losses, but Jesuit plays everyone. They play IMG twice. They play nothing but great teams. So their record's a bit deceiving. And I do the state rankings for Scorebook Live or High School NSI. I try not to bang them too much, and drop them when they lose. But, you also have to have some wins too. But they're in my top 15. American Heritage is a little bit in that boat too, suffering some losses against really high quality opponents. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's go over and talk about that Jesuit game because really motivated. And in both of those first 2 games, Douglas came out, scored pretty early. I think they took a 2 or 3-0 lead against Jesuit up there. And that was a Gio Rojas game. So anytime Gio's on the mound, that's pretty exciting. Gio ended up that day, he went 4 innings, struck out 9. And then Bennett Gary was the offensive hero. He drove in 3 runs. Braylon Courtney came in. He kind of went the other 3 innings. Dealt a little bit with adversity. The beauty of technology is, and thanks to Jesuit, because they have their own sports network. So one of the moms at Douglas texted me that link. So I was able to catch that game. I wasn't aware of, I missed the first inning, but from the second inning on, I could watch the game. And I know a lot of people kind of tapped into that down here. I was talking to some people. So, just keep that in mind. Hats off to these schools that make it easy to follow their programs. And me, as someone who follows Jesuit for my state rankings, it's good to know I could access them as well. But Braylon Courtney, he went in, got the final 3 innings. There were a couple of errors. He gave up a few runs, but, there's one bad defensive inning for Douglas. They kind of got a little sloppy, and it cost them, but able to hold that game down. They won 7-4. Big win. Also that night on Tuesday night, American Heritage really challenged themselves. They went over to Fort Myers. They played back-to-back days against Canterbury and then Bishop Verot. Bishop Verot's like nationally ranked as well. Like their top 5-6 team in the state. Dylan Dubovic, 2 hits and RBI, drove in the only run of the game. And in that game, let's see who started that one. Dominic Ferreira went 3 innings, and I think Mark Ailman also pitched that game, but maybe I got my notes mixed up. But Dominic Ferreira pitched really well, 3 scoreless. But not a lot of offense by Heritage. The thing about it is Heritage is a good offensive team, but they've been a little inconsistent. Now, granted, Heritage, Douglas, a lot of our big schools, they're always facing everybody's number 1. So it's a little deceptive sometimes when you talk about American Heritage's offense, but they did scratch out a run to win that game. And no, Mark Ailman, I wrote it down. He pitched against Bishop Verot, the left-hander. Mark Ailman, I'll get to that. Yeah, we'll tackle that right now because next night, Heritage went over. They're in Fort Myers. They spent the night there. Lose 3-1 to Bishop Verot. Mark Ailman threw 3 innings, didn't allow an earned run, struck out 6. All 3 runs were unearned. There was an error in that game that proved obviously costly, but Heritage only also was held to one run. It's a long year right now, and those leverage arms get taxed. So kind of those trips tend to be pretty good for teams in terms of bonding. For American Heritage to find their stride, they just kind of got to turn the page. Schedules are getting easier as they kind of finish up the regular season a little bit, but they're certainly battle tested. They certainly have the talent to go very deep into playoffs. American Heritage, Dylan Dubovic. I talked to Dylan and a few of the other players. They ended up going to see U School play against Somerset. Somerset is in Heritage's district. So talked briefly with a couple of the guys there. And Dylan was telling me he's feeling like he's getting comfortable at the plate, kind of heating up. And if that's the case, the Miami recruit can really, be a real force. And that's what we're looking for from our players. We're looking for all players, but our really good ones to just kind of kind of dial it in at the time of year when you need to. Tuesday night, let me make sure I didn't miss anything before I go to Wednesday, where I was Wednesday. Like I said, Tuesday night, I saw Nova. I was at Nova. They played Dr. Joaquin Garcia. No, they didn't play the doctor himself. It's a school, I think, in West Palm. Beat them 8-1. Really good game again. Nova's playing well. Aiden Paredes, I think, pitched that game through really well. It was like a quick turnaround game. They played like Monday night extra innings for Nova against U School. They turned around. I think they were playing at 1:00, hot day, but they kind of grinded that one out. 8-1. So let's go Wednesday. On Wednesday, I was at St. Thomas Aquinas, saw them play Spanish River. St. Thomas is playing as well as anybody in the state, probably. Their offense is on an amazing run right now. A 7-game winning streak for the Raiders, and they scored 94 runs in those 7 games. If my math's right, it's about 13 runs a game. And all 7 games, they scored in double digits. So unrelenting offense that day against Spanish River, 11-1. First, let's talk about the pitching of Julian Diaz. Another really good job by Julian, dealing with a lot of run support, but making the best of it. 5 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. Story of the game, Brady Bucksbaum. Congrats to Brady Bucksbaum. He had 2 home runs, and what made that's obviously for any high school kid to have a multi-homer game is huge. But when you do it on your mom's birthday with her in attendance and everyone saying his mom happy birthday before the game, obviously a huge day for the Bucksbaum family. Happy birthday to Mrs. Bucksbaum, and Brady came through, giving you 2 home runs that day, 3 RBIs, and in the first inning Brady homered, and he homered I think in the third. Really kind of got the thing rolling. But like I said, 1 through 9 with St. Thomas right now is very impressive. Getting Jaden Dover spike back from injury really has lengthened that lineup, with Nico Sabatino leading off, and then Dover spike, and then Malvasio as like 10. I think Zach against Cardinal Gibbons the day before hit his 10th homer. At the time, it led the nation. I'm not sure that still holds up according to Max Prep. Maybe it does. If not, he's certainly among the national leaders in homers. And in that game, Zach almost had number 11. He homered high off the wall for a double in the first inning. Zach swinging the bat really well. Like I said, Brady Bucksbaum coming through with the 2 big home runs. Then Cole Lasher, he's staying hot. He hit a grand slam, his 2nd grand slam of the year. And then little mishap, unfortunately. I hope he's okay. One of my favorite players to talk to here in South Florida and watch play. Josh Jennings, he got really shaken up on a foul ball. It looked like, I haven't talked to him since, but in the shoulder area, maybe the collarbone, I don't know. But he's a tough kid. He stayed in the game. But after his next at bat, you could really see him laboring to swing the bat. So he came out, but so it with Josh coming out, it opened it for Jaden LaBeouf. I hope I'm saying Jaden's last name right. And he came up big because he comes up in the 6th inning. It's an 8-1 game with 2 outs in the 6th inning. And Spanish River, I think they walked somebody, and it brought up. I think Malvasio got a hit. They intentionally walked, stole second. They intentionally walked Bucksbaum to bring up Jaden LaBeouf, and lo and behold, he has a 3-run homer. Well, what does that mean in the bottom of the 6th inning? Now all of a sudden, an 8-1 game becomes 11-1 game. So Jaden's 3-run homer walked it off with the 10-run mercy rule. So everyone went home a little bit earlier thanks to Jaden's 3-run homer. So obviously a sign of a really good St. Thomas team that, you could lose a player like the caliber of a Josh Jennings, and his replacement has a moment like that, because you need depth, obviously, as districts and regionals start coming up. And I know St. Thomas is, eyeing getting to Fort Myers and state. They're going to need their players. They're going to need them to be fresh. They're going to need their backups to contribute, their bench to contribute. So huge game. And for St. Thomas Aquinas. Also on that night, that was Wednesday, like I said, Sickles, a really good program in Tampa. Douglas, after winning those first two games against Santa Fe Catholic and then Jesuit, they I believe took a 2 or 3 run lead in the first inning, but unfortunately for the Eagles, were not able to hold on. Lost 5-4. Again, a really good Sickles team, but I think it was 5-3. I think they made a 5-4 score in a run in either the sixth or seventh inning. But Douglas, nothing to be ashamed of, and I know that they got to be really happy to come back to South Florida after running the gauntlet there and of playing those three teams in 3 straight days. So hats off to Tom Fitzgerald's team and the Stoneman Douglas Eagles. And it's setting up what on Tuesday at St. Thomas Aquinas. It's going to be a real heavyweight showdown again because Douglas is going to be at St. Thomas. That should be an amazing game. Second time these two teams are going to meet this year. Earlier, I think I wrote it down, February 26th, I believe. Yeah, February 26th at Stoneman Douglas. Douglas won 3-1. That was a Gio Rojas start in that game. So, that should be obviously it's going to be a really high profile game. And although right now I'm on the fence, people are obviously saying it's the obvious game, so I should obviously be there. But with some 4 o'clock games and knowing I'm going to see Douglas again really soon, there may be some other places I go on Tuesday night, but I certainly will be, following. If I'm not at St. Thomas that night, I certainly will be following the action and, reporting to you what, my observations and thoughts are after we get some feedback from that game. Thursday night, it was opening day for Major League Baseball. There, because everyone was out of town, there was nothing really close by, so I did not go to a game. One of the few times I've not in the past month or so, I have not been at a high school field, so I was able to eat dinner on time, watch a lot of major league games, and that's always fun. It doesn't stop now until October, so you that's one thing about the big leagues. They play every day, and you don't get too high or too low because the season's so long and so much happens, and it's 2-3 games in really says nothing right now. Obviously, the Marlins are excited. They won the first 2 out of 3 as I'm recording this. Do not yet have doing this before they play the Pirates for their the 4th and final game of the series, but have to admire the way the Marlins are, showing a lot of energy, playing with a lot of heart. Clayton McCullough's got those guys fired up. The two teams aren't super good. They're among the worst teams in the National League, but the Marlins are outplaying the Pirates and are deserving to win these games. And the experience, it's all good. But there's some things that went on in the Marlins games on the Pirates end that I'm going to tie in as I wrap this show up. I'm not there yet, but as I give some observations. Friday, back out there at the fields. I was at U School again. They're playing Somerset Academy. I do like watching Somerset. I don't see them enough. I plan on it. Coach John Mora, got to meet him and talk to him. His son, John Jr., a UM commit, is a junior, terrific player, center fielder. Somerset is a nice program. Wear and tear of a long season and not having a home field, being on the road all the time, does have its impact. But don't sleep on Somerset Academy. They played U School, lost that one. U School again. They find a way, won that one 6-4, and a great week for U School. Again, Mark Manuel came up big at the plate, and what I really liked about Mark too was he once the team took the lead, he's their closer, and he worked the 5th and 6th innings. I got some, the 6th and 7th innings. I got some footage of Mark pitching. Let me see if I could call it up here. Yeah, here we go. Let's go to the beginning. Recast it. There he is on the mound. He got the save. He struck out 5 of the 6 he faced in 2 innings. And what I liked about Mark was just the way he's on the attack. There's no messing around when you're coming in there in a tight game. You want to get ahead of these hitters, and you don't want to mess around. His fastball is plenty good enough, but that attack mode really got the hitters, having to think they got to be in the zone and get things going. But great job by Mark Manuel. Again, he came up with some big hits, and again, just look at his. He basically you like to say on these games that go fast, it's like Mark had dinner reservations. He didn't want to mess around and stay too long, so he wasn't really trying to trick him much. A lot of fastballs, and then um, you know doing a great job with mixing in some off speeds as well. Do have some other videos I want to kind of throw up here. We got Brady Bucksbaum here, I believe. Yeah, here's Brady. This is home run number 2. I was just talking about Brady and what he did. Um, uh, in Brady, what he did in his 2 home run game. Excuse me, the phone rang, so I got distracted for a minute. Um, oh boy. So I'm good, but my wife went out of town. Just a quick thing, since I'm a transparent guy, and she texted me to say that give an update about her trip. So, but anyway, back to this Brady Bucksbaum. This is home run number 2 against Spanish River. You can see Brady, big kid, takes that ball kind of the left center, doesn't miss that one. Home run for Brady Bucksbaum, and that home run made it like 4-0, I believe. And like I said, they went on, won that game. USF commit in Brady Bucksbaum, but he's also a junior. Another video I want to show before actually I'll kind of talk a little bit about this team. North Broward Prep really heating up. I think they won 7 in a row. The Eagles, young team. I saw them a little bit more earlier in the year. They obviously won state last year. Had a lot of seniors who were really instrumental. They're all playing college ball now, these seniors from last year, but this team is peaking right at the right time, and I think they're going to be, again, formidable as the districts and state come around. State rankings they have coming out in the next day. Tune in to see, maybe I'm giving a little hint, whether or not North Broward Prep is in my top 25. Just maybe a spoiler alert. But one of the players I really like talking to, and one of the terrific players, O'Neill. Kiernan here, he homers in a game. And thank you, Kiernan, for sending the video, allowing me to see these. But for him, talk about a day, having a week. He had in one game, his final 2 at bats, he homered, and then his next game, the first at bat, he homered again. So Kiernan has now hit 3 home runs. He had hit 3 home runs in 3 consecutive at bats. So Central Florida commit, a senior. Really good hit, really good baseball player. Shortstop, also closes for them. But now if, he has the ability to take pitches the other way, but if he has the ability now to kind of take that middle in fastball or pitches middle in and looks to drive it and hits for home runs, that swing's looking really, always had a nice compact swing to begin with, but now he's starting to tap into that power. So again, congratulations to Kiernan O'Neill and the Eagles for getting hot. Also want to note Logan Bostic. He had a huge game against who they beat. Logan Bristol. He had a huge game when they beat Newman, St. John Newman. Logan Bristol, sophomore, one of the best in the country, beat Newman 11-0. So that's really, when you get 5 innings and 7 strikeouts from Logan Bristol, kind of leading into districts. Really, really good sign for the North Broward Prep team as well. Let's see, as we're kind of wrapping this thing up in my closings, I want to kind of mention some stuff that I've observed, some of my thoughts, observations as we kind of, teams are playing crunch time. They're playing games that are meaningful, and certain things. I saw this happen at. I don't think they'll mind me mentioning this, and I don't think Rocco Rovetto would be too offended. But we're going to talk about players picking each other up after an error. And I'm not singling out Rocco. I'm only using him as an example. And I'm sure his dad, Dan, who's the coach at U School, won't mind me mentioning it. But Rocco, he drops like a most basic routine of pop-ups, which obviously, it's a physical error. It's a physical error. He drops the ball. There isn't a guy who's playing in the big leagues who hasn't dropped the routine ball in a competitive game at some point in their life. And most of them, if you play long enough in the big leagues, you do it there too. So that's obviously not good. But what followed was teammates picking each other up. And what I mean by that, the runner reaches, but he tried stealing second. And Griffin Pomper, the really terrific catcher for U School, you can see he got up with he has a good pop time and a good arm anyway, but he really kind of had a little bit of an extra urgency getting up and putting himself in throwing position. And it looked like, from my point of view, got a little more zip on that throwing, got the runner stealing. So huge there, picking your teammate up. And then, the pitcher, Matthew Greenberg, who again pitched really well. He pitched that game against Somerset. He strikes out the next batter. And point being is that error didn't lead to big damage. So what happens? Yes, you get disappointed. The player's frustrated. And it is all players. You're going to get frustrated when you make an error. It's part of it. Your teammates will get a little frustrated with you, but the good teammates and the good teams recognize that Rocco's lifted. He's provided U School, the Sharks, with so many big moments, so many big hits. So, picking him up, he's picked his teammates up plenty of times, either with defensive plays or big hits. And, it's good to see the teammates picking each other up there. So I did want to note that, because this time of year, the stakes are going to be higher right now as you get to seedings for districts, and then teams that advance from districts to regionals, and then regionals to state. You're going to make errors. You're going to make mental errors. You're going to get picked off. You're going to do things that are, not going to be embarrassing to you and put your team in a bad spot. But are your teammates you're going to make that, if you're a pitcher, you're going to make that one error mean you're going to give up 6 runs, and you kind of, or you've checked out and you don't want to compete anymore? Or are you going to kind of say, hey, I got you, no big deal? But that kind of speaks to the brotherhood and the team chemistry that U School has. Those kids, especially that senior class, has been together for many years, and it's what they do. They pick each other up. Oh, a player I wanted to mention before, Jimmy Heward. I'm really happy. Western, they're going through a really rough patch right now. Western is. Jimmy has had certainly his ups and downs this year, control issues, but they went up and played Palmetto up at the IMG tournament. And Jimmy struck out 17. He throws a no-hitter, 7-inning no-hitter. I think the final score was 7-0 for Western, beating Palmetto. Jimmy Heward strikes out 17 and throws a no-hitter. The only runner to reach. He didn't walk anyone, which is really, really encouraging, because he's had issues with walks. The only batter to reach was a hit by pitch. So congratulations to Jimmy Heward. I hope this kind of turns him around and gets him back dialed in and becoming the pitcher that we all know he can be. But that's also ties into picking each other up when players are having a bit of a rough year, and who's there to step up and help out, or carry the torch for the team. And the last thing is district. So that kind of ties into my last kind of theme, and I'm going to call that tightening things up. And that's where teams right now, if you're getting a little sloppy, in your preparation, if you're kind of mentally checking out, if you're in the outfield and you're kind of not paying attention, now's the time to tighten it up. And this is where I'll mention, your preparation. You got to tighten these things up. You got to focus a little bit more. And this is a thing where, I picked this up on, for those who don't know my background, I've covered the Marlins for over 20 years, 18 with MLB.com. I'm still a BBWA member. And having covered more baseball games than any other, print media person at Lone Depot Stadium, I see, sitting in a press box, you see how big that outfield is where the Marlins play. And now these days, a lot of these MLB teams, they're, with load management, the batting practices aren't as intense. They're working on things. They're not always working on studying their environment. And you've seen that work to the Marlins' advantage in the series with the Pirates, because your outfield spacing is different in a bigger ballpark. And it's, the Marlins outfield is humongous. And we've seen O'Neill Cruz, the center fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates, just botch balls this series. And yes, those are going to happen, but was O'Neill getting his early? Now, I'm not out there, so I can't answer it. But is he out there early, getting early work, seeing the distance he is between his the outfield, the right fielder, left fielder. Seeing which balls you might be able to reach, which ones that in a smaller, if you're playing in Cincinnati or a place that's a smaller outfield, um, you don't, you're back, you practically can hold hands with your right fielder, but in Loam Depot you're about a mile away, so you got to communicate, you got to see, you got to work on this stuff in batting practice. Clearly the Pirates is one reason why they're not a great team, is they don't. And I noticed this a few years ago. I was covering the I think it was the Royals were playing here, and their outfielders were bumping into each other because it's like, were those guys getting their early work? What normally is the center fielder's ball, because the center fielder has priority. The right fielder in that game, when the Royals a few years ago, went way out of the way and created almost a collision, and a ball dropped. Point being, you take that to the high school level. The high school fields are all different too. The outfields at some places like U School, that's a college field they're playing on. NSU, the university plays there. So you're dealing with more of a pro type field. So you got to know your distance. How deep is your center fielder? Is there a flare in front? You notice if you're on second base and you notice the center fielder is back, and you see it's going to drop. It's easy. You could make a quick read and score on a hit. So many kids would be waiting and seeing. Pay attention to these things. And I just tell you, those who play in fields that are a little smaller, if you're a really good team, if St. Thomas or Doral, and you're going to go on and play in state in Fort Myers, the spring training site of the Minnesota Twins, that outfield is not the same dimensions of the outfields in St. Thomas or Doral. So there's a lot more ground to cover. How deep are you going to play? So you're going to have to learn how to play in different environments, but maybe a little different style when you're scratching out for a run. So, those are some of the pointers I want to raise to you guys, especially outfielders and your infielders too, knowing how deep you need to go to make a catch. If you're in a bigger outfield, you're in a shortstop who has range, and there's a pop up to short left field. At your high school, that might be, can of corn for the left fielder. But at a bigger, if you're in state, your left fielder might be 20, 30 feet back than normal. So you could reach that ball. You go out there and get it. Like a big league shortstop would go out and get it. So these are the things I like their kids hits. We grow in this game, focus on, pay attention to your environment. How does the field play? Just pay attention to all this stuff, because these small details are going to determine whether or not you're advancing to Fort Myers or you're packing up and getting ready to, play on your off-season travel schedule, get that going a little early. So these are points I want to make. I've rambled long enough. Once again, everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Curtain Call podcast. Please like and subscribe. Again, 1.3 million in the month of March. So if I get to 1.4, I'll be really happy, but I'm not going to kill myself to do it. But again, I don't know where I'll be next week. There's some games. I want to see Archbishop McCarthy. I want to see True North Classical. And so we'll see how it pans out there. But one thing you do know is I'll be flooding the channel with videos. The shorts, the videos, and just keep getting more and more for these podcasts. But with that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, please like, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch everyone in the next video.